günlerinde bizimle birlikte olan üst düzey katılımcılarımızı ağırlamaktan büyük bir mutluluk duyuyorum. Bugün 29 Ekim 2020. Türkiye Cumhuriyeti kuruluşunun 97. yıl dönümü. Gururla kutluyoruz. Büyük vizyon sahibi Mustafa Kemal Atatürk'ü ve tüm şehitlerimizi, gazilerimizi rahmetle anıyor. Cumhurbaşkanımız Sayın Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'ın liderliğinde 2023 ve 2071 yıllarına yürümekten onur duyuyoruz. Onur konuklarımızın ve değerli açılış konuşmacılarımızın aramıza katılmasından dolayı çok mutluyum. Ayrıca bugün bizimle birlikte olan farklı akademik disiplinlerden değerli öğrencilerimizi, sivil toplum temsilcilerinden, iş dünyasından ve diğer paydaş gruplarından değerli temsilcileri de içtenlikle selamlamak istiyorum. Ne yazık ki hepimiz küresel COVID-19 salgını ile eşi benzeri görülmemiş bir durum yaşıyoruz. Dünya halk sağlığı krizinin acil ihtiyaçlarıyla karşı karşıya kalmış durumdayız. Düşüncelerim ve tüm dualarım pandeminin tüm kurbanları ve hastalar karşı savaşan kahramanlar için mevcut küresel sağlık krizini tüm alanlarda ortaya çıkardığı zorlukları ele almakta, toplumu desteklemekte, bilim ve teknolojinin önemli katkısını vurgulamak bu sempozyumda aynı zamanda. Umarım yaptığımız bu online sempozyumla kaos karmaşıklık alanında bu katkıyı destekleyeceğiz. Değerli katılımcılar, önümüzdeki birkaç gün içinde oturumlarımızda gerçekleşecek tartışmalarımızı gerçekten büyük bir heyecanla bekliyoruz. Sempozyumumuzun çıktısını uygulamalı bilimler ve yönetim alanındaki siyasilere, akademisyenlere ve araştırmacılara, yönetim, matematik ve istatistik gibi alanlardaki öğrencilerimize faydalı olmasını dileriz. Son olarak hepimize başarılı bir online sempozyum diliyorum. Teşekkür ediyorum. Saygılarımla, sevgilerimle.
Dear Professor Emir, now floor is for you.
Thank you very much. Dear honorary guests, dear participants, I'm very honored to be part of such important and huge event. In these days, we'll be privileged to hear multidisciplinary topics in chaos, complexity, and leadership. All these new scientific foundings and theories we'll be listening, in general, should be of use in educating new generations. But even education systems are undergoing new shift in paradigm. The shift towards more apomediation role than one of the gatekeepers, which it was usually performing. This is uncovering increasing burden on individual capitalism, digital learning, and redefining even social contract in terms of algorithms and artificial intelligence are some of the distortion elements occurring in all segments of society, market, and even political paradigm. This year 2020, undersigned by COVID, is showing both the fragility of systems and our ability to adapt. The symposium being organized online is just one of the examples. The pandemic shock doctrine is highly profitable for tech companies, is real, in which our every move, our every word, our every relationship is trackable, traceable, and data mineable by unprecedented collaboration between governments and tech giants. Can we predict and analyze underlying patterns, interconnectedness, constant feedback loops, repetition, self-similarity, fractals, and self-organization? Having all this in mind, how can chaos, complexity, and leadership be put in good use for principles of human rights and freedoms in digital age is something I'm asking myself as a social scientist. As a co-chair, I wish you all to take most of this year's symposium, encourage cross-discipline collaboration and scientific excellence. Thank you all, and I hope we have enjoyable symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Emir. Now, the floor will be for the Professor Seat Turkola, the Dean of the Bosnia Faculty of Political Science.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, dear colleagues, distinguished representatives and ministers from the respective ministries of the Republic of Turkey and Bosnia-Herzegovina. I extend my warm welcome to all participants at the 7th International Symposium on Chaos, Complexity and Leadership, organized by International Science Association. I would like to thank our partners of this year's symposium, International Balkan University from North Macedonia, Sulejman Demirel University in Sparta. In my introductory remarks, I will focus on academic leadership in times of COVID crisis. I will start with a short theoretical approach and continue with some points we might be able to discuss today or expand on it in the publication that will follow up on this symposium. Over the years, a large number of studies from multiple disciplines, as diverse as the safety sciences, team research, or crisis management, have accumulated to a large body of literature on the topic of crisis leadership. However, despite the scholarly recognition of the importance of studying this subject and a large empirical base of studies to account for this, so far, there has been no effort to investigate crisis leadership in the academia in an integrative manner that acknowledges both the breadth of what the notion of crisis encompasses and the different styles leaders can apply to lead through different stages of crisis in academic environment, and how their effectiveness may vary depending on specific features of crisis. From the multitude of leadership theories that exist, only a few of them have been empirically accounted for when attempting to predict the effectiveness of crisis leadership interventions, even though there are compelling reasons to assume that certain leadership styles may be more appropriate than others for different crisis conditions in academia. The health crisis related to COVID-19 came very quickly. Usually, crises are in some way announced with weak signals, like, for example, a natural crisis, a tsunami preceded by small earthquakes. But this crisis seems to be too quick for all the actors and sectors in our societies, including academia, to be able to prepare and respond appropriately. What the academia, at least in the Western Balkans region, but from my experience and exchanges with the colleagues from other parts of the world, neglected, was to observe changes over the years. For example, by young people who want to work differently, more flexible and mobile, and have different expectations from their careers and jobs. If we had done this, we certainly would be among the winners during the crisis. It is certain that COVID-19 will not be the only crisis in our lives, nor will it be the only disruption in terms of academic governance. At the moment, we are on the verge of the first crisis. The beginning phase is about the learning effects from the crisis and the question of whether we want to go back to a better old system or try something completely new. We should be realistic and look closely at both the positive and the negative aspects of the crisis. I don't think we need other leaders in academia, but we need a different understanding of academic leadership, which means leadership is not only about maintaining or restoring normal academic operations. This type of thinking has shaped us for a long time. We have to rethink it here. Rather, academia now need leaders who productively shape these regular operations and this conformist thinking and bring disruption and innovation into academic world. I know that we are still socialized in the old normal system, but for real innovations, we need a new way of thinking. So far, linear thinking has been sufficient, but not anymore. Instead of charismatic leaders in academia who are hyped as saviors, executives would have to look specifically for those who recognize the ever-growing importance of digital solutions, digital transformations, and innovations that have accelerated further during the crisis and has become even more evident. Universities and schools had to go digital with little or no warning. Those who already had the expertise, experience, and procedures had a clear advantage. I will stop here, and I'm sure that we will address some of these questions in today's panels and discussions, or in the chapters of the book that will follow up on this symposium. I wish all of us a productive day and hope that the next conference will be held under normal circumstances, and many greetings from Sarajevo.
Dear Professor Seat Turkolu, thanks for your great works and best wishes for the conference. Now, Professor Murat Ali Dulupçu, who is Vice Rector of Isparta Süleyman Demirel University, will give a talk.
Thank you. Good morning, dear chairs, distinguished ministers, and colleagues. First of all, it's a great pleasure for our university to participate in such a symposium, in such an academic event. Unfortunately, our rector, Professor Dr. İlker Çarıkçı, has to travel due to a sudden meeting, and he sent you best wishes and a successful symposium. For our university and for all academia, scientific events are crucial. I hope this symposium would strengthen our relations between our universities as well as colleagues. Academic meetings provide a good opportunity and platform to establish mutual relations and cooperation. Dear colleagues, change is a key word that helps us to understand the dynamics of the economy and the society. I think the change in technologies has profound impacts on the rest of the world, including universities. Obviously, a continuous response is needed by the higher education institutions to meet the demands of the change in technologies. In other words, education, research, and other services provided by the universities must be reshaped and reformed. And I think the most difficult task in this process will be to find the most effective ways and means of transplantation of the emerging concepts into our administration or into our everyday practices of universities. And these include chaotic thinking and complexity, of course. For example, what does networking and knowledge economy mean for our universities? More money for hardware or a real transformation for our minds? Or will pandemic continue to shake our education systems? Or will distance education bring something or somebody to end in our higher education system? Most of us will remember that just before the pandemic, we were discussing about Industry 4.0 and its impact on various areas. But complexity and chaotic events once again remind us the terminology like indeterminacy, uncertainty, unprogrammability, or uncontrollability, and remind us the importance of complex thinking. In this regard, we need a new kind of leadership which can be active and create solutions on slippery surfaces. I think today's meeting and tomorrow's meeting will create an atmosphere which will contribute to our science and research position of our nations and our academics. Papers that will be presented in the symposium will help us to find answers for complex thinking and, of course, for leadership. Once again, I welcome and salute you all. I hope our efforts will help us to construct a better future for us and for all people. Many thanks to organizers, chairs, and invited speakers. I wish you all a best symposium for the rest of 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Murat Hocam. Today, our next speaker will be His Excellency Mr. Yavuz Selim Kıran, our Deputy Foreign Minister of Affairs. Until that, I would like to just reconsider today's program after the opening speeches. We will have an invited speaker session at 1 p.m. in Turkish time and 11 a.m. in Bosnia time. Invited speaker session 1, which composed from Dr. Nail Alkan and Dr. Tim Stutkay from Germany. They will talk about the world order after COVID-19, and Tim Stutkay will talk about the 5G networks, untrusted and not having a leadership in European Union. And the second invited speaker session today will be in the 2 p.m. in Turkish time and 12 p.m. in Bosnia time, which composed from Dr. Helena Roca, Dr. Nilanjan Rey, Dr. Yehuda Baruch. 3 of our speakers will give different insights from their fields about the chaos and complexity. And after the second speaker session today, we will have a paper presentations. The first session in the paper presentations will be held in Turkish, which will be chaired by Dr. Selim Kanat. And this paper presentation session will be about mostly the international relations and political landscape related with the chaos and complexity. And also one of the paper presenter will give about the last insights from Kyrgyzstan and what will happen in last 1 month in Kyrgyzstan. The last sessions today will be paper presentations sessions. It will be chaired by the Dr. Nihan Potas. These sessions will be held in English, and in these sessions there will be mostly management related with hospital and COVID-19 pandemic. The papers will be about hospital management and leadership in epidemic. The second one will be about authentic leadership with health employees, and the other ones related with the nurses and their leadership during the pandemic. Today, there will be no other paper sessions or invited speaker sessions after 5 p.m. in Turkish time and 3 p.m. in Bosnia time. And tomorrow we will start at 10 a.m. in Turkish time and 8 a.m. in Bosnia time with the paper presentation session 3. And tomorrow will be also very tight in terms of the program. We will have invited speaker sessions of Dr. Hakan Çağdaş Alada, Dr. Meryem Kavakçı, and Dr. Renata Santos from Brazil. And then we will have again the paper presentations. And tomorrow in the evening in 5:30 p.m. in Turkish time and 3:30 in Bosnia time, we will have a keynote speaker, Professor Yaner Bayram from the United States. He is founder of the New England Complexity Institute. It is one of the biggest and leading institute in the case of the chaos and complexity theory. He will give a 1-hour speech, including questionnaire. So we are also looking forward to have you in this session as well. And tomorrow our sessions will continue until the late night, actually. Our latest sessions will be in 9 p.m. in Turkish time and 7 p.m. in Bosnia time. There will be a panel about excellent leadership studies, implication of national and international excellent leadership by Dr. Olcay Yavuz and Dr. Erkan Kral. And the last day, we will start at 12 p.m. in Turkish time and 10 a.m. in Bosnia time, again with paper presentations. and it will continue with the paper presentations till the 6 p.m. in Turkish time and 4 p.m. in Bosnia time for last invited speaker sessions. It will be also very interesting sessions where the speakers will be talk about different insights of the foreign policy and the latest development related with the pandemic, European Union and the world order. Also, a very interesting topic will be discussed over there, how our brain reflected in foreign policy making and how our brain chemicals affected the leaders' foreign policy making. So it will be interesting for all of us. And lastly, our closing remarks will be given by Mr. Yücel Yılmaz, who is mayor of Balıkesir Metropolitan Municipality, and he is also member of Board of United States and local governments and world organizations, and also he is co-president of the Middle East part of World United States. So he will basically make closing remarks, including his leadership experience as a mayor of Metropolitan Municipality, and he will give some insights of his foreign experience related with the municipality's crisis management during the pandemic, and he's also part of the Health Cities organization in the United Nations. So there will be very interesting closing remarks like other parts of the program in whole conferences. Today, also in some paper presentations sessions, I would like to give also some technical information to our participants. The certificates will be given in the end of each paper presentation sessions by the chairs. So they will be provided through the Zoom platform as well. And some of our participants also ask and sent email related with the Zoom links for each days. I would also like to inform you that every day just given the next day Zoom links, because there will be too much sessions, both paper presentation and invited speakers. That's why we didn't want to give the all Zoom links in a one day, otherwise it will be a little bit complicated. And in any cases, as we all know, because of this technological stuff, there can be sometimes some problem in connections or some problem in the links. Because of these reasons, every day we will give the just next day Zoom links, and in the night all links will be provided to both paper presenters and invited speakers. So while we are waiting, I would like to give some words to Professor Emir. Maybe he would like to say something.
Thank you very much. I'm just very excited to see how much papers we have received for this symposium, and it's just a great opportunity to hear people from different disciplines and scientific backgrounds dealing with pressing issues in this wider multidisciplinary topics of chaos, complexity, and leadership. I was in my opening address. I wanted to say that concerning the dynamics of the year 2020, we should probably have interest in holding this symposium like every month, because it's so many things that we need to research and exchange with each other. So many normal paradigms has been shifted throughout this year due to pandemic, and the moves and regulations that governments have made, and how this has affected the entire society is just unfortunate for many people. But for scientists, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to us, to be able to research so many things, how human society can very swiftly be adopted, and how much we can be focused and dependent on technology very quickly. On the other hand, we are looking at the challenges of how this will affect the development in all segments of society, market, and even political communication doctrine, and understanding active citizens in this new age, pretty much, because we are living some kind of forced digitalization. Probably we have moved forward 5 to 10 years in normal progress in just few months because of all the pandemics. So I'm very excited to hear the papers, and I'm even more excited to read the chapters that hopefully many of you will submit for the proceedings of this conference for the Springer Publishing. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Emir. Yes, actually, you remind me that about also the long version of the paper presentation for the book publishing. I will also give some information related with this. Our deadline for the long version of the manuscript will be extended to January, mid of January, because of the pandemic. Some of our participants demanded that they need more time, and actually because the university term is already started and most of the participants has a very intense right now the schedule related with lectures. That's why we extended to January, mid of January, rather than the mid of November for the long manuscripts. And once more, to just remind that who is making Turkish presentation in papers, in paper presentation sessions, they should also send the English version of their manuscripts and their articles for the book. And after the book submission, probably it will take 3 or 4 months for the publishing. But I think including this symposium, I had a chance to follow some other international symposium in last 2 months, especially everything just after move to the online platforms due to the pandemic. I just noticed that our general theme related with chaos and complexity right now is the most interrelated and directly related with the pandemic, and the discussion related with the how world look like after the pandemic, because everyone is right now using the notion of chaos and complexity when they are giving a talking about their actually insights about how the world look like after pandemic, but they are not using the terms in a very real way or the real sense. They are using the just notions. But in our symposium, as Professor Emir mentioned that, and Professor Seat Turkolu and Professor Murat Aliudulupçu also touched upon that, this conference will be very interesting, both the discussions and outcomes, because it will give the quite new trends, or maybe just open the new way to the discussions related with this post-pandemic world, and it's how it's look like in both people's daily life and in general for the world order. Maybe Professor Seat Turkolu will like to give some few words about this.
Okay. Sorry, I missed some parts of your question. So if you would be able just to repeat it, as well. There were some sound distortions while you spoke.
Professor Seat Turkolu, we just talked about, because Professor Emir mentioned that this conference will be a very timing related with the discussions of post-COVID-19 world. And I just want to hear few comments related with this, how it will be timing and how would be the result of this conference maybe led to open some discussions.
Yeah, certainly, as Emir pointed out, it's a timely conference. None of us expected actually that we will have the conference online, that we will have the conference in these circumstances where we are so limited in terms of mobility and so. But on the other hand, the conference provides us the room to discuss these new issues that the entire academia is facing, including where to develop further. Are we going to increasingly work on kind of digital learning or digital methodology and digital methods when teaching our students? How to respond from the perspective not only academic leadership that I spoke about, but also from other leadership aspects, how to respond to the crisis, and how to respond to the crisis, as I have said in my introductory remarks, that we didn't see coming. I already said that the most of the crises are in some way unknowns, that there are some signals that something is in the making. But this health crisis that we had with COVID, and that it's still pretty unknown to all of us, is something what challenges us to maybe adapt to new skills, new leadership skills, to adapt a new approach to solving issues, and maybe to go outside of this comfort zone that we are mostly socialized in. And I'm sure that we also will hear from our panelists, or from our opening, from our keynote speakers who work in this practical political environment, how they actually understand and how they see the crisis, and the appropriate responses, or in which direction the state management will be going in the near future, to be able to respond more quickly to such crises as we had with the COVID-19.
Thank you, Professor Seat Turkoğlu. His Excellency, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, will be with us within, I guess, 5 minutes. Until now, we have few questions from the questionnaire part. Yes, one of our participants asked that will all manuscripts will be published. As I mentioned that most of the manuscripts which right now will be in English probably will be published, but before the publishing process, once more the editors, who is the Professor Şule Erçetin, Professor Emir, and me, will make one more internal review, and there will be also some other review by the publishing house. Then the selected ones will be published. So I hope I can just can answer the questions. And one more questions from our participants ask that there will be break. Yes, there will be break. And now our His Excellency, our Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Yavuz Selim Kıran, is with us right now. His Excellency, can you hear me?
Yes, Şuay. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Minister. How are you?
Fine, good to see you.
Thanks for coming our conference. You honored us to be here. I don't want to take your time. The floor is, all participant is waiting you, so the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Yusray, and thank you very much for your kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, it's a pleasure to address the 7th International Symposium on Chaos, Complexity and Leadership. I wish to congratulate the International Science Association and its partners, the International Balkan University, Süleyman Demirel University, and the Sarajevo University for organizing this event. I hope that this meeting will help furthering academic cooperation between the Turkish institutions and their counterparts in the Balkans. We have long been witnessing a dramatic change and transformation in the international order. We live in a fluid and dynamic state of transformation in every sense of the word. This happens against the background of instability, unpredictability, and chaos in current international affairs. Long-established frameworks like globalization, free trade, and liberal economic order are shaken. The founders of the previous order only cared to protect their narrow interests. As a result, a lack of order and clash of interests is emerging. Underdeveloped nations and oppressed communities are suffering and falling victim to disorder and chaos. However, the old international structure does not and did not provide an answer to this human suffering, nor did it shelter and protect humanity against cruelty and oppression. Tragedies experienced in the Balkans during the 1990s is a striking example of this. How can we forgive the massacre of the Bosnian Muslims forced to flee for their lives? The worst crimes against humanity after the Second World War were committed in Bosnia. Srebrenica turned into a shameful spot in our collective memory under the watch of the international community. These brutalities were not limited to the Balkans. We witnessed deeply troubling scenes in the Caucasus as well. As a result, the territories of Azerbaijan remain under the Armenian occupation for 30 years. 4 separate UN Security Council resolutions affirming Azerbaijan's territorial integrity are widely disregarded. Once again, the leading nations of the existing global order failed to counter aggression and occupation. With no other options left, Azerbaijan is now taking back its territory on its own. So, even before the pandemic, we were observing chaos and complexity and lack of leadership across the globe. The pandemic, on the other hand, gave pace to many negative global trends. First of all, the pandemic revealed the shortcomings of the existing international system. UN Security Council spent more than 3 months to adopt a resolution on coronavirus. International cooperation is unfortunately losing ground. Unilateralism and populism gain ground. Therefore, now is the time to take steps for the reform of international institutions. As clearly stated by our President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the world is bigger than 5, and the UN must be reformed accordingly. Secondly, the pandemic has deepened the existing divisions and conflicts around the world. A brief look at Libya, Syria, Yemen, Palestine, Somalia, South Sudan, and Myanmar clearly reveals this. There are multiple challenges at work in these regions. These include governance failures, economic hardships, growing inequalities. Vulnerable groups like the internally displaced people, the refugees, and the migrants are suffering more. We need solidarity, resilience, good governance to prevent further misery. A third point is that there has been an increase and intensification in geopolitical competition. The geopolitical rivalry between the US and China is both widening and deepening. The growing clash between these two powers leads to further instability and unpredictability. We implement an enterprising and humanitarian foreign policy under the leadership of our President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu. How does this foreign policy approach differ from others? In simple language, we engage in world affairs actively and constructively. We place the human factor at the heart of our policies. We serve only for the well-being of people. Beyond words, we accomplish solid outcomes. We take on leadership to develop regional cooperation mechanisms. We have 14 trilateral or quadrilateral mechanisms among regional actors in the Balkans, Asia, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. In the Balkans, for example, we initiated 2 trilateral mechanisms with Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, and Croatia. From this perspective, the Balkans is a strategic region because Turkey is part of Southeast Europe. Geography, history, culture, and demography are key factors in this. There are millions of Turkish citizens with Balkan origins. Large Turkish communities live in the region. We contribute to stability of the Balkans through NATO and regional organizations. This year, we took over the term chair for the Southeast European countries process for the 3rd time. We will host an informal foreign ministerial meeting of this process on 6th of November in Antalya. Our term chair priorities address challenges common to the region. These include security, trade, culture, tourism, connectivity, and migration management. We also focus on cooperation to counter the coronavirus pandemic. Our enterprising and humanitarian foreign policy underlies international law. This is why we stand with those legitimate rights are violated. We stand with Azerbaijan in its struggle to restore its integrity. We support the integrity of Georgia, Ukraine, and Moldova. We assist the UN-recognized legitimate Libyan government. We open our doors to Syrian refugees and try to prevent the spread of terrorism and bloodshed in Syria. And in the East Mediterranean, we strive to protect our rights and the rights of the Turkish Cypriots. As our president emphasized, we neither violate the rights of others nor let others violate our rights. Our foreign policy provides answers to the pandemic conditions. This is how we called for a collective global action for this global challenge. Our key message to the world is to promote international solidarity, cooperation, and effective multilateralism. We co-sponsored the UN General Assembly resolution that called for a fair, transparent, and equitable access to essential medical supplies and future vaccines. We joined the EU's Coronavirus Global Response Conference. In short, we extended a helping hand to other nations. As a result, we provided medical supplies to 155 countries and 8 international organizations. This is part of our enterprising and humanitarian foreign policy. Before the virus outbreak, we were already the top refugee hosting country and most generous humanitarian donor. The coronavirus outbreak has just earned us another badge of honor. We became the 2nd largest medical aid supplier. This is because we believe true friendship is tested during hardship. During this crisis, we also took measures to care for our citizens and others. Since March, we brought back over 100,000 Turkish nationals from 144 countries. This is the largest evacuation operation in our history. Our evacuation flights carried over 5,500 foreign nationals from 67 countries. Having the 5th largest diplomatic and the 4th largest flight network in the world enabled to make this difference. Turkish embassies and consulates rushed to assist our citizens and others around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, in accomplishing all these, digital outreach, effective governance, and political leadership play a defining role. With foresight, we were prepared for the digital challenge looming over the horizon. Last year, our Foreign Minister Çavuşoğlu announced the Digital Diplomacy Initiative. Currently, we utilize the transformative power of technology in all aspects of our diplomatic work, including consular services, public diplomacy, and policy analysis. We will continue to tap on the potential of big data and artificial intelligence in foreign policy. Yet these steps are not sufficient alone. Effective governance and political leadership to address the challenges is more important than ever. With this understanding, Turkey's visionary leadership and institutional capacity demonstrated an impressive performance in facing this challenge. During the pandemic, many leaders contacted our president to receive his opinion and advice. Our President Erdogan is also in regular contact with world leaders as they seek his opinion on several regional and global issues. This clearly shows that President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has the wisdom and vision go well beyond our national borders. Ladies and gentlemen, before concluding, I want to underline an emerging threat we all face in Europe. This is a threat of racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, and intolerance. France places itself at the center of this senseless hate attack. French President Macron attempted to link Islam and Muslims with terrorism for his own domestic political agenda. He also dared to create some empty concepts such as enlightened Islam or European Islam or French Islam. Islam is one and universal. Our religion is a call for peace to all humankind. Unfortunately, his provocative approach is bearing fruit. Charlie Hebdo published so-called cartoons full of disgusting images aiming against our prophet and our president. We condemn this savage effort by the strongest terms. This publication has nothing to do with freedom of expression. They are spreading cultural racism and hatred. Turkey, under the leadership of our president, is supporting millions of people in need around the world. We are hosting over 4 million refugees in our country. Those who have not lifted a finger to help women, children, and disabled are now targeting our president with indecency. We will not remain silent in the face of these reckless attacks on our culture and religion, no matter where it comes from. In the meantime, we call on all sensible European friends to fight back against this kind of primitive cultural racism and uncivilized discourse. With this in mind, we will continue our endeavors to make our foreign policy relevant to the realities of the post-pandemic world. I very much hope this symposium will help us further our understanding of the challenges ahead in a chaotic and complex world. I also thank to Mrs. Şaya Çıkan and her dear mother, Şefika Hanım, for their contributions to organize this event. We will welcome your feedbacks on our discussion today. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister, His Excellency, thank you for your great speech. Actually, it will be a great insight for all participants from all over the world in our conference. It will be an amazing summary of today's chaotic international system where we are living and where Turkey is showing its leadership. Thanks once more. Thank you very much for your speech. You honored us to be here, and thanks for your kind words to me.
Honor is mine, Şay. Say hello to all participants, and thank you very much. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Once more, I would like to thank His Excellency Minister Yavuz Selim Kıran. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Ravza Kavakçıkan, who is AK Party Istanbul Deputy and also President of Interparliamentarian Unit. She is also honored us today with her speech. Could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me as well.
Yes, you look great and we can hear you in a great way. Now I can give you the floor to you. Thank you.
Thank you. It is my honor to be in a platform like this. Thank you so much. I know that Honorable Minister of Security of Bosnia will be joining us, and we just heard from our Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I'm honored to be among distinguished professors and academics and distinguished participants today. This is a special day for Turkey. It is the 97th anniversary of the establishing of Republic of Turkey. So it's a special honor for me to be among such distinguished audience attending the 7th International Symposium on Chaos, Complexity and Leadership. In the next couple of days, you will be hearing from distinguished academics from a variety of areas of work and different disciplines, and expertise. So I'm sure it will be a very, very fruitful symposium for all of the people who are attending, and I hope that the end result will be one that will benefit all humankind and academic world. Of course, like I said, it's an extra honor for me to be among you on this National Day of Celebration. When I was invited to attend this symposium by Professor Erçetin, I I started to do some research. I started to do research on chaos theory, complexity theory, and tried to do some reading. And thank you, Dr. Şuay Açıkalın, for the information you sent as well. It's very valuable. I have an engineering background. So I have a bachelor's degree in software engineering. And now, later on, I switched into social sciences and ended up with a PhD in political science. So if I did not learn anything during my PhD studies, I learned not to talk on topics that I'm not expert on. But I will try to reflect on what I learned during this process and what the things that it reminded me of when I was reading about chaos theory, about complexity, about leadership, about the butterfly effect, all these different concepts, some of which I knew already, but some of them I'm familiarizing myself with. So as a student of chaos theory and complexity and leadership theories, I will try to share my insight as a student from a student perspective, and as a social scientist, as a social science student, let me say, I will try to reflect upon what I've read and what I've learned and what it reminds me of. Of course, I have different hats, or maybe I should say different scarves. So I'm at the same time, I'm somebody who is new to the academic world, as well as I'm also a politician. I'm also a member of parliament, and as you mentioned, I'm chairing the Turkish Interparliamentary Union group in the IPU. In social sciences, what we do is we try to study, analyze, categorize human behavior. And we try to predict different behavior patterns. In political science and international relations, we also try to understand state behavior. We have different, in classical theories, there's different concepts about what the nature of human being is. And we try to also build the societal activities, societal behavior based on these perceptions. And different theories, classical theories, neoclassical theories, modern theories have different predictions and different understanding, different definitions. From the perspective of chaos complexity theory, what happens from what I gather, what happens in one part of the world may have tremendous effects. What happens within one government or within one society, a small flame starting up somewhere, something unexpected may change into something different all over the world. So there's a lot of options, there's a lot of possibilities, and there's maybe academically this is a challenge for the academic to understand and to interpret what is going on somewhere in the world with respect to a specific issue. A minor incident in one part of the world may end up yielding global effects. So it's a very, very exciting area for me as well. And I'm looking forward to the best of my ability, listening to distinguished academics who have work in this area. Of course, dealing with unexpected, unknown, and trying to produce academic results out of this this is a challenge, as I mentioned. We are going through an interesting time. We were facing challenges, global challenges, as different states in the world, such as economic challenges and social challenges, hunger, poverty, environmental challenges that we're facing. Among all this, we were faced with a pandemic, something unknown, something unexpected. And how do you behave when you have situations like this? I think this is one of the very important questions that hopefully there will be, and we will be together finding or searching an answer to during this symposium. COVID crisis made us realize that we're very, very globally interconnected and interdependent. And so if we were to look at it from different levels, we could see that as an individual level, we learned that we are all equal. We're all equally vulnerable when we're faced with this virus. Tiny virus that we're not able to see unless we have a special microscope. And this tiny virus has ruined all our plans. We may have personal plans. We may have had big goals as states or different aspirations. And all our plans were ruined after this COVID pandemic. So as an individual, we realized at the individual level how vulnerable we are, as well as how we're all the same. No matter who you are, you could be the most powerful person politically or economically in the world, but you're faced with the same risk. Or you could be a person who is the poorest person and has very low economic income, but you still face the same thing. So it reminded us as humankind how equal we are. On a national level, societal level, it's a reminder that from the Turkish perspective, I will try to give an insight. It reminded us that we need to support each other. So what we saw in Turkey when we saw this incident of this pandemic, we realized that we're quick at getting organized. We realized that in other countries, there is a need for ventilators, and in Turkey, we don't produce ventilators. So we started producing our own ventilators. So at the societal level, ventilators is just one example. There came out a perfect, I will say, a very good example of private and public partnership in producing something that was necessary for this pandemic to be dealt with. Also, in another level, for instance, a very good example that Turkey has is we have something called Vefa Destek Grubu. We can say loyalty support group. So the state institutions, different state institutions, different ministries came together with civil society, and they made sure that everybody, especially our elderly, who is very valuable for us. They are the experience and memory and the history of our nation. So all of these different people who needed extra help were given help through the Fidelity Social Loyalty Support Groups. So this is an example that doesn't exist anywhere else. It's also a humanitarian example. In the international level, what was necessary? There was a need for support internationally as well, because we realized during this pandemic, in addition to knowing that at the human level, at the individual level, we're very vulnerable, we're all facing the exact same risk, we also realized that we're globally interconnected. We're not safe unless the whole world is safe. So no matter where another human being is, they could be at a different part of the world, in a nation, living in a nation maybe we can't even find on a map at the first instant. We realized that we have to help each other. So Turkey, again, is a good example, and our deputy minister talked about this as well, is a good example in trying to help out other nations, other human beings as well. So Turkey was one of the nations that sent humanitarian help out to 153 nations all over the world. That's another good example. So at the human level, we realized when we were faced with something unexpected, like the COVID pandemic, we need to improvise. We need to help each other out. We realize that we're all faced with the same mistake, and globally we're interconnected and interdependent. So I think after the pandemic, in the academic world as well, it will give us an opportunity to look into new areas of making sure that we can work together at the humanitarian level, at academic level, at all levels that are possible in order to make sure that as humankind, we can move forward. Another example, when I was reading about chaos theory and complexity, different organizations, the issue of unpredictability. We faced in Turkey in 2016 a horrible coup attempt. So when we look at classical theories or classical understandings in social sciences, whether it is anthropology or psychology, sociology, or my area, political science, we look at things rationally. There's an understanding of concept of democracy. There's an understanding of fighting for democracy, and these international values of human rights. On July 15th, 2016, you know that Turkey faced a coup attempt. And right after the coup attempt, it was something unexpected. It was something that wasn't even dreamt of or talked about. So after this, Turkish nation came together, of course, with the leadership of President Erdogan, and they did something. The people of Turkey, with the support and prayers of our good brothers and sisters all over the world, did something that wasn't rational. With the invitation of President Erdogan, which is a very rational invitation, people took out to the streets. They trusted him. He had good leadership, charismatic leadership, very good leadership under extraordinary leadership, under this extraordinary circumstances. And immediately with his invitation, people took to the streets. 251 people lost their lives that night. And 2,193 people were wounded. People did something, like I said, that wasn't rational. As human beings, when you're faced with danger, it's instincts that kick in, and it's your reflexes. If somebody tries to hit you, you move back. If somebody tries to shoot at you, it's human nature, you will try to save yourself. But on that day, people did not stop. They went and they stood against the tanks and those who were using their guns against them with no fear. And they did something that wasn't, like I said, rational, and it wasn't instinctive, but they stood up for human rights with their bare hands. So I think this is something very important and very related to the topic of this symposium as well. So people of Turkey on that day stood up for democracy. Actually, they kind of redefined fighting for democracy, the concept of fighting for democracy. And they did something that wasn't expected and that has no other examples of. And this happened very quickly in a time frame of a couple of hours. And the next day, as right now you're my guest in my office in the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, and this parliament was in session a couple of hours after the attacks began, and it was in session with the presence of all parties, giving out a declaration that stood for Turkish democracy. So I think this is something extraordinary. So when we're looking at chaos theory, when we're looking at complexity theories, and when we're looking at leadership, this is one of the good examples maybe in the future more academics can look into. And I think it will be a very, very valuable thing to talk about. So I will try to summarize. I wasn't speaking as an academic or a politician, but I was speaking a little bit maybe unacademically from the heart as well. But I think the different incidents that we're facing as humankind will make us learn from each other. And I hope that the 7th International Symposium on Chaos, Complexity, and Leadership will be one that's very fruitful and will bring benefits, not just to the world of academia, but to humankind in general. I would like to give my gratitudes to all the organizers, to International Science Association and all the partnering universities. And our prayers and thoughts are with our friends all over the world. And I hope and pray that after this pandemic, we will learn our lesson as humankind and learn to take care of each other and stop the fighting and realize, hopefully it will make us all realize at individual level and at national level and international level that if we do not take care of each other, we may be faced with other more dangerous and more difficult experiences or challenges. I would also finally, again, like to thank you for the invitation and my deepest respects and greetings from the Grand National Assembly of Turkey to all the guests who are attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravza Kavakçıkan. It was a great speech where you summarized the different insights, your examples, and chaos complexity theory. I think it is one of the interesting speech we had in this conference. Thank you for your participation that honored us again. Now I would like to give floor to His Excellency Mr. Selma Čikotić, Minister of Security of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Mr. Minister, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Okay, now the floor is for you.
Thank you very much. I would like to greet all government representatives, all university representatives, and all dear friends and colleagues who are gathered here today around the topic of this 7th International Symposium on Chaos, Complexity, and Leadership. I must admit I'm more focused on leadership than on chaos and complexity, but any situation, anytime, anywhere where the people are, leadership is always needed. The more complex, the more fragile or dangerous situation is, the more leadership is needed and vital for the functions and success of the organization that is affected by any kind of leadership. To that end, I would like to present my contribution to the discussion from the viewpoint of a student of leadership. So combination of the related to some of the senses. When I say this, I do admit the notion of my predecessors, or previous speakers, who eloquently and rightly spoke about the world connected. But we also live in a world that is characterized by constantly growing overall speed of social change. That is very relevant for all today's viewpoint and understanding of leadership. The speed of overall change is constantly growing, and not just by linear, but rather by an exponential characteristics. And it makes the complexity and chaos of any situation more important as a challenge for the leadership. So the major, to put some elements of responsibility and discipline in any kind of disorder, any kind of trust, and any kind of crisis. Whenever leadership is invited to find out a way or find some kind of solution or the way out of any troublesome and chaotic situation, it always looks for the capacity of individuals and rather more for capacity of the team, of individuals in the capacity of organizational mights and capabilities, and that includes and involves the individual responsibilities, discipline of individuals, integrated into the functions of the overall organization. So just to base this whole approach on my understanding of ability of the one who leads, persuade those who follow to accept the risk of change and to do the change and institutionalize the change. So when we apply this definition into a chaotic and complex environment, then we need that change is an immanent element of understanding of leadership. If there is no change, there is no leadership. Leadership is always based upon the vision that is shared between and it is crucially important to understand that leadership is about followership. If there is no followership, then there is no leadership. We don't speak about some kind of formal position, some kind of fiat, dictatorship, or just kind of regulated relationship, but we don't speak about real leadership. And real leadership shares common vision between the one who leads and those who follow. And what is the vision? Vision is desire, picture of the future. So the state of affairs better than the existing one. It should be feasible. It should be realistically planned, and it is always related to the future. Inspiration, motivation, and persuasion links leader with followers, and these elements of interaction, the communication between followers and leaders, is crucially important for all complex situations, and this glue that puts together the leaders and followers in troublesome situation. And it is very important to understand that modern concept of leadership understands that certain members of teams within certain complex situation could change their position. The same person could be at certain point of time a leader, and at next point of time, at next iteration, somebody else could assume the leadership position, whereas the previous leader could become follower in the next circumstances. And it puts flexibility into the understanding of leadership as a role. Leadership is not a kind of sacred position, even though the capability of the one who leads to see further, to see wider, to see deeper and better, and the rest of the team defines his position of the leader. And as long as he could care for the well-beings and interests of his followers better than they can do it themselves, he or she will play that role of a leader. And once he exhausts his capabilities, his ideas and visions, it defines the time that someone else should become the next in row to lead the group, to lead the organization, and mechanism of finding the way out of any kind of chaos or crime of the whole organization and all members of its organization. I would just for that purpose mention what are the dimensions of the leadership. There are three key dimensions. The key one, or the first one, is concept. Then the second one is qualities or traits of the leadership. And the third dimension is the leadership process. What is the concept? It's basically the creation of idea how to undergo certain change, and to create the hope among followers and driving mechanism of change, hope for the to be undertaken. All these qualities that are important, they are important for the leaders, but also those qualities are needed and desired at the side of the followers. Integrity, selflessness, trust, wide concept of vision, mutual understanding, responsibility, and acceptance of responsibilities, readiness to make decisions, competence, and of course there are others. And the third dimension of leadership process is the process of leadership or change. This is the practical application of leadership, and leadership as many other human endeavors, ideas, plans, concepts, strategies, politics. Leadership either succeeds or fails in this stage of implementation. Implementation is the most sensitive and the most important and vital element of every human activities. So the process itself, the realization of the process, implements all the elements of concept, qualities, and relationship. So with all these theoretic aspects in mind, when we speak about leadership in crisis, then I guess it is very safe to assume that all good leaders are optimists by their nature. They all see crisis as a chance, and they all see optimism as a multiplier of every success. So creation of optimism before the recovery is very important. Prevention as an approach to crisis is very important. When we speak about leadership in chaos or complex circumstances, then I guess it is very safe to reflect to the management of crisis or crisis management, which has got some overlapping elements with leadership, but also it has got some specifics of management. And just to make a distinction between leadership and management, to this respect, I would like to say that leadership, whereas the management is, leadership by its nature is related to the change, whereas the management is related to maintenance of the system functions. So Whereas the leadership wants to change, the management wants to provide the existing system functions. But combination of good leadership and crisis management is a very safe approach. It could be integrated into one single person. It does not take two different individuals, a leader and a crisis manager. A good leader is a good crisis manager, or good crisis manager should act as and could work as a good leader once the crisis is over. And just to somehow wrap up this whole approach and contribution, I would like to share with all of you a very positive and potent experience of many developed and progressive organizations and states that is relevant to chaos, complexity, and crisis. COVID-19, the flow, any other complexity we could possibly speak about. That is the approach of triple helix. Triple helix is a modern system that combines or put together three very elements of every society, and that is the government, economy, and university. If those three and understanding each other, supporting each other, and assisting each other, they would have feedback on positive note on daily basis, help individual growth of all of these three elements together, and society that link interconnection and interconnectivity. And I guess if we assume the notion of this symposium,
Mr. Minister, we can't hear you right now.
Microphone is unmuted for some technical reasons.
I think right
sorry. Okay, I would just like to thank you, the organizers, for brilliant orchestration of topics and participants into the symposium. I wish you a good health, very positive outcome of symposium, and good effects. Hope to see you soon again.
Mr. Minister, thank you. It will be great. It was a great pleasure to listen, especially the leadership perspectives of you and related with the crisis management, which is quite timing, depending on right now the current international system, both pandemic and other ongoing diplomatic tensions and conflict across the world. I would like to once more thank you to accept to be here. You honored us, and I also asked the same question to Professor Emir. We would like to happy to have your speech also as a contribution to our book. We would be very happy to have it. Once more, I would like to thank again, and I hope you will also get better soon from the COVID-19, but you look great. So we wish more better and healthy days for you and for your family. Thank you again. Dear participants and our privileged speakers and guests today, today opening speech session is right now ending. We will have invited speaker sessions at 1 p.m. in Turkish time and 11 a.m. in Bosnia time. You can find the related Zoom meeting links in our websites, which is www.iccls.org. You will see the both program and the Zoom links over there. So thanks for all participants and distinguished guests again. Right now we are ending the session. Have a nice day, and once more happy to anniversary for our Turkish Republic on National Day. I hope we will see you on the next panels and invited sessions. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you all also, and happy National Day to all Turkish friends.
Thank you, Professor Emir.